45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best. What?
The bunny ears are back.
All right, everybody, we are back for another edition of Laugh Underneath the podcast, and the temperature here is starting to get warmer, man. Because you look, we got more people around us,
and they're just good-looking dudes.
Yeah,
just like
that raises the temperature.
Yeah, the temperature just went up because Charlotte's in town.
H-Town.
H-Town.
I like my neighbors.
Okay,
but we got to give love to H-Town.
So why is it called Hickory?
Well, part of that story is around a tree that was next to a train track that became the train station that then brought all the goods and services in that eventually made the city. Was that a good one?
It was a bar.
It was a bar.
Hickory Tavern.
Well, okay, thank you.
It was a train station. Now it's a bar.
That's hilarious.
The town was originally called Hickory Tavern. And
Really?
later changed it because they probably figured it should be good to name our town with tavern in it, so they dropped tavern and just called it.
Well, so interesting that we're talking about name changes because this hotel is now called Joe Wilson Marriott. So we took over Jake Love.
Yes, that's me. Yeah, that's all right.
Then I'm hanging with the right guy.
That's right. That's right.
Joe Wilson Marriott in Orlando, Florida for the NAMMBA Connect. Or the Joe Schmo Marriott.
Joe Schmo.
Joe Schmo Marriott.
I didn't see the J yet.
There's none, JS.
All right, but we are here with Eric Levin and Thomas Seelbinder from Model Match.
We gotta fix that. Eric Levin.
Levin, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
You know, a long time ago, I somebody said that, and I just let it go. And then I had my mom in the back of my head saying, "Don't you let them get away with that. You correct that. That's your name." So.
The thing is with a name like Fabi Nagmi,
no one ever says your name right.
I have put up the white flag. You don't even get me.
So good.
I've been called Froggy. I've been called. I mean, dude, it goes.
Just let it go.
The Froggy, no. Okay. But when when they say like, how do you spell your name? F-A-B-I. Yeah, go ahead.
Just go ahead.
It's your mother.
Whatever you want.
So guys, if you
wait. Eric Levin and Thomas Seelbinder.
Thank you.
What did I say?
Yeah, we didn't even say anything.
I said
because he corrected me.
I said it.
Oh, maybe you did. I didn't hear you.
Let's play the replay. Just kidding.
Let's get to the replay.
Let's throw that on a red flag. Let's do a replay. Anyway, guys, so Model Match is here in our studio right now, Joe.
Yeah.
Right? And I know you and Eric are good friends.
And Thomas.
And Tom, I don't know. I don't see you interacting with Tom as much as with Eric.
Well,
Thomas is the wizard. He doesn't talk as much, but when he does,
it's the man behind the curtain.
Oh, I see.
This is the guy that makes all the magic happen at Model Match.
Oh, that's why Model Match is the happiest place on the planet.
Yeah.
And we bring
It's
him.
not the Magic Kingdom.
We bring him out from behind the curtain. Every time.
All right, guys. So we have some interesting topics we're going to dive into here with Eric and Thomas. So first thing I want to talk about is you use the word actionable data with me. And you use that on a post that I recently put also. I remember that, right? Mm-hmm. So that word is obviously something that you're actually focused on, hyper-focused, because you keep talking about it. Yep. Tell our audience why and what it means.
But, it's funny, lately, AI, and you and I were talking about this. Like, instead of artificial intelligence, why not actionable intelligence? I think the reason is our business started off as an organization that would help companies grow. Okay, so whatever that means, we need to add volume. To do that, we need to add people. To do that, we need to increase market share. How do we do that? And up until this moment, and still, people call that recruiting. We need to recruit. We need to open up branches. We need to add loan officers, wholesale account executives on the revenue generating side, the sales side. And then back in the day, there was no data. What did you, I remember the times where you would get a CD-ROM from the NBA. You remember this?
Yeah.
And you'd plug that CD-ROM in, and the moment that it came in the mail, it was already outdated.
Yeah.
But you didn't care because it gave you a contact. And the idea was, I'm going to call this contact, and even though it's not going to be the right contact, it'll only take me 15 calls to finally get to the right contact. We don't have to do that anymore. We have data at our fingertips, NMLS, real estate data, that can create the efficiency to get us to those individual opportunities that are closely related to who we are in our business. But what difference does it make if you don't do anything with that information? And so we started off as actionable first. And by listening to our users, to our clients, we realized the data was so important to be able to fill at the top of the funnel with just those opportunities that meet your curated, unique value proposition. But without the action, that intelligence is just It's not AI.
Well, I think a lot of people don't even know that they need to do need a tool like Model Match or any other platform that actually not just gives you the data, but gives you the tools to use that data and use it properly, right?
I think most, in my experience in the industry, right, it's not that they don't want to do it or they don't know how to do it, is there's that fear. Am I doing it the right way? Right.
Well, fear's huge, right? So not only are they doing it the right way, but do they know who they're talking to when they go to make that phone call? And maybe before that, do you even know who you are before you go to make that phone call? So let's just play around with this for a second.
Yeah.
If you want to go identify a referral partner that meets some minimum criteria, a certain amount of buy-side transactions, maybe a particular product mix, a certain average loan amount, maybe a certain amount of units within a geographic market. Well, to know that that's who I want, I have to know something about myself. There's something about me and the company I'm with that can serve that opportunity maybe better than others. But if I can go in with that data, what does that give me? It gives me confidence. What does the confidence decrease? Fear. So that is one starting point for sure, even above and beyond the efficiencies. And then look, something that we did that Thomas and his development team recognized was it's one thing to give you an environment where you can find that data by plugging in information, into a search bar. Show me every agent that does X amount of buy-side transactions that look like X, Y, and Z. And then you come up with this list. But Thomas and his team thought, well, what if we could just give you the list? Maybe talk about that for a second, where the idea of, because the next step was, how can we reduce even more friction to create less fear and give you back more time?
Well, with all this data, especially from the originator standpoint, with all this data, what are we doing, right? We're going into a tool, any tool, we're searching something, a market, a state, a city, a county, a zip code. We're looking at a list of agents, or for recruiting, we're looking at a list of LOs. We're clicking on those LOs or those agents, and we're going through those transactions, and we're looking line by line, and we're hunting for those nuggets, right? Where's my opportunity? That's a lot of work before you even identify that this is someone that you should be focused on, you should focus your attention on. And then you got to go take action. I mean, most likely, if you're not in Model Match, you got to take that person, you got to put him into your CRM, and then finally now, hours later, I can make a phone call and I go to voicemail on it. Oh, bummer, right? But it took all that time to find the opportunity and then to take action. Well, that's where Pulse AI came from. Was we have all this data. We're sitting on over 100 million different transactions. How do we take that data, analyze the loan officer that's viewing the data, and then say, look, Mr. or Mrs. LO, these are the agents that you should be most focused on in your market for a variety of different reasons, right? And then show them why they're even in front of you. They have active listings. You have a relationship with them. You have a relationship with a borrower who you did a loan for on a property, and they just listed that property, and here's the agent that listed the property. You should do something with that, right? So it's not just here's a list and you go off and do something. It's here's a list and here's why these agents and why we believe you should be most focused on these agents, because that's what's going to return. That's the ROI. Is time well spent on the agents that are getting one step closer to the next referral.
We all have the same amount of time in the day, right? And it's so the smart lenders are choosing to use their time wisely to achieve the goals that they want, right? And that's really what you're talking about.
Well, sometimes I hear things like people make excuses about why someone's in the top 50 of the Scotsman's Guide as an example, but I'm somewhere else. I'll tell you why they're there. It's scale. They have figured out a way to scale.
Right.
Because there's only one of them. And like you said, they have the same amount of time that you do. So they figured out a way to scale. It wasn't their last name. It wasn't because they won the jackpot, right. Especially the ones that are on that list every year, no matter what the market is, right?
They're still producing.
So how do you keep that scale? And that's something that we're always thinking about to get deeper down that rabbit hole that Thomas was talking about.
Let's stick with Thomas a little bit here. Yeah. When we talk about the thing that you do, the magic, the wizardry, how do you always I guess in my mind, technology is one of those things that, how do you foresee things happening? How do you innovate it? To me, it's like I'm a musician, right? Yeah. So I know, when I used to write songs in the studio, I could hear the bass line in my head. I heard, you were playing guitar. I'm like, oh, I know the bass. I got it. You know what I mean?
You know what's next.
Yeah, I could just see it. Yeah. Is that how you're innovating when you're seeing with technology?
Your users will tell you where you need to go.
That's right.
So having deep conversations with your users, and you're actually listening to the problems that your users are having. Look, the user is not going to tell you, I need a button to do this. because the user doesn't know what they don't know, right? All they know is they have a problem and they trust in you enough to have a conversation with you to tell you about that problem, and they trust that they're talking to the right person that can help them solve that problem. It's your job to listen intently, read between the lines, and then come up with a potential solution. That's where true innovation happens. It's not in the boardroom or amongst leaders talking and coming up with ideas in the cloud. It's talking face to face with users.
Yeah.
Well, I want to build on that really quick, because I think there's another element to that you're not saying that I know you do as well. And that, so we look at it on a microscope, right? What the individual users are doing, because they will. Your clients, if you're a technology provider, your clients will tell you exactly what to build, and they're not always right.
Yeah.
But most times they are, right? And so you have to kind of filter through all that stuff. But it's like, it's taking that and then looking at what's happening up here at the macro, like what's going on in the entire world and in our space, and then pairing those two things together. This is a smart guy right here. Actually, they're both super smart, but like it takes a genius level like Thomas to be able to understand, be able to do those user interviews, dive really deep, and then still understanding what is happening at the macro level, and then making that all. That's where the magic happens.
Well, I tell you something else that I know you're great at, and that you have to be great at. You've done this as well. Is to know when not to get emotional.
Yeah.
Like, don't be so married to your idea.
Oh, yeah.
You get emotional.
That's awesome.
Someone then saying, "Hey, but this would help me," because they don't say it that way many
No.
times. They're just going to tell you what they think sucks or what they think is broken.
What's terrible about your
But they're really telling you, they're really saying, "Help me."
Yeah, yeah.
How do you get this thing to create this efficiency? It's your job to then be unemotional about it and come up with a use case.
Yeah. How, like when you guys make modifications, Joe, you can chime in. You know, both you guys, right? When you guys make modifications to your platforms, do you guys are thinking like this other thing can now change, which would be a negative impact,
Oh, you have to.
right? Because like you're solving one problem,
Holistically.
but you're causing another problem.
What if it, there's no solutions, only trade-offs?
Yeah.
There's been plenty of times, right, where you solve one problem and then you go and you create another problem. But that's where companies that truly stand apart and truly stand out amongst a crowded space are the companies that know that happens but are able to react quickly to it. You know, if you're getting feedback and you're like, hey, this is great feedback, and I solved one problem and I caused another problem, but you know, we're like more waterfall, so we don't do any sort of release for like another 6 months or another year in some cases, you're very slow to react, right? So like Model Match last year had 14 major releases in 12 months.
Whoa.
And that's just a product of reacting quickly to feedback. You have to be there to react.
Wow. So there's that guy who I guess some recently where the Microsoft everything got shut off on planes and everything. Was that because somebody released something too quickly?
Cloudflare. Yeah.
Shit, we figured it out.
Yeah, it's easy.
You guys were able to match the airlines back to where
That is now hopefully if you're at that level, you're a little bit safer, right? But there are certain times, there are certain times where you make a change and it's not what you anticipated, or testing didn't go right, you didn't catch it, and it goes through and it happens, right? And that's where, on top of all this uniqueness about how you develop and how you build product, is you own that situation, you fight through it, you don't make an excuse of why it happened, you fix it, and then you move on.
Well, on that too, there's different risk tolerances that you have with the different releases, right? There's things that are just back end that could really screw up everything that you might need to shut down for an hour or two. There's web only, there's mobile, you gotta wait for Apple or for Android. So there's all different types of releases that happen. And it's the same thing in mortgage, right? We make decisions all the time as lenders.
Mortgages are perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, but like think about this.
We close on time at the lowest rate possible, Joe. I don't know what you're come on.
Yeah. No, but even in your organization, right? You make decisions that are every day. We make decisions, right? And we implement things into our business that have different levels of impact, and that have on our consumer. You know, if I'm talking about a bank or a brokerage or whatever, I have decisions to make might impact my consumers, my internal staff only, maybe just my loan officers, maybe my back end team. Like, you have to be thinking about all the different ways that those things impact, and you can decide, let me just shove this one thing in here, even though it might screw up, a processor's day for once a month, but it's worth like a whole week's worth of time for my loan officers. I'm going to do that. Right? So like everything's a trade-off.
Sometimes I have seen where decisions are made from a department and they don't understand the effect it's going to have on the sales team.
Yeah.
Or the sales team is saying, God, why can't she just work? And it's like, dude, she's got 37 units. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have 17, but she's got 37 and we're dividing, you know what I mean? So it is that trade-off and making decisions that are balanced.
Sure.
Is that it right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there is a amount of risk that we all take in our businesses.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where you got to be clear on where the train is going, right?
And I think this
that's the big deal.
is such a great segue because we can then look at the data-driven decisions that we're making, right? Which is, I think, really important. Especially, look, I'm a recruiter. I recruit if I'm not recruiting 14, 17 times
You
a
just
month.
recruited us to come over here and do
Hey,
the
Eric,
Let's go.
I don't know your last name, but come over here.
Yeah, like I saw some of your posts and it's pretty decent. Come over here.
No, but I mean, look, I have data today. I can make decisions based on data, right? Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's inaccurate, but at least it's data. I'm not just making something where I shook somebody's hand, they showed me their W-2 like in the old days,
Right.
and I said, okay, come on board, let's see how this all works out.
Yeah, well, and you could go, that's a rabbit hole you could go super deep down. I mean, look, it's sort of fun when you get into this and you could really talk to this, where you start to realize what you're leaving on the cutting room floor that actually has value, right?
Oh,
It's like
wow.
you're making the donuts and you realize you have all this excess material and Duncan says, let's make munchkins.
Yeah,
Use this excess material
genius.
and we're going to increase our margin.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not always a margin play, but you think about things like transaction detail.
Sure.
You know, when you acquire data, it's usually in this tremendous dump of data that you really can't do that much with unless you know what to do with it. It's our job to figure out how do we package it in a way where you can now use it. It views easily. It's nice to look at. It's snappy. Its performance is really good. But then all of a sudden you start to realize, my gosh, we've got our hands on information that can help the user go even deeper down a deeper rabbit.
Yeah. The data tells a story, but it's a directional story. It's
Yeah.
the outcome.
Right.
It leads you down this path. So if you're able to look at like employment history as an example, you can see when a change is made. You can see what the ramp up looks like. Does the cell ramp up well? Are they plateaued? Are they peaking? Right? Did they reach their baseline? What does that look like? Those are things that came out of a user just seeing it and being like, hey, I'm using it.
Yeah.
We had no idea. We didn't think about that when we built it, right?
The key word though is use, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, because I have it and I'm looking at it. Am I using it? So you made me think of something. You were talking data. If somebody wants to figure out how much money do I need to retire, how many calculators are online right now to be able to do
Oh,
it?
yeah.
The data's right there, and it's actually pretty decent. Like, it's within a decent tolerance at this point. So I go plug in the data, it gives me a number. But within that number, there's a variable that says this is how much I have to put away on a monthly basis with this return to be able to achieve this result.
Yeah.
I've got 30 lines of information. But if I leave this one thing out and I don't do anything, what happens
That's right.
relative to my outcome?
Wow.
Nothing happens. I'll tell you a quick story also about the data and going down this deep dive, and then I'll show you. Or I won't if you want me to keep doing that. So
Save our voices for tomorrow.
we had,
You got the right guest on.
yeah, no,
You give a mouse a cookie. Yeah, it's like
so we get a user, right? When we had a feature called Pulse that rolled out, and this was the curated data that Thomas was talking about, where, look, just plug your NMLS ID and we're just going to curate it for you. So he goes in and he sees, oh, I know that person's name at the top of the list, Kathy. Kathy sends me all her business, right? But then he hovers over Kathy and he realizes his wallet share with Kathy is not 100%.
Oh.
It's not 80%.
Yeah.
It's 60, 65%. Still a really incredible number. Like, it's a really good number. He went a little bit deeper and realized that there was a particular product that Kathy was not sending him. But he has that product and he's good at it.
Yeah.
He had just never communicated that to Kathy. But then he did something with the data. He picked up the phone and he's like, hey, Kathy, what's up? I thought we were partners. I thought you send all your business. I do send you all my business. No, you don't. I'm looking at the data and all of your XYZ product is going to somebody else. I didn't know you were good at that.
Ooh.
Now he's going to get that business. And so he called me and said, I'm super stoked and I'm super pissed off at you right now. And I said, well, what? And I'm getting sensitive thinking something's wrong with the technology. And he said, well, I'm stoked because I found this. I'm pissed because I did the math over the last 2 years of what I wasn't capturing.
Oh, wow. Hey,
that's tough.
That's a question. Couldn't loan officers use data on companies to decide if they want to join a company?
100%.
They should be.
Right. But how? But
Yeah.
seriously, guys, think about this. We look at a credit report, right, for a borrower. We say, hey, sorry, you know what? Your score is 550. I got to get you a minimum 580. But if they're going to join a company, they kind of like, oh, they bought me dinner. they flew me out or whatever, right?
I would say the first thing I would do as a loan officer is I'd pull up that company inside Market Insights and Model Match, and I would look at their exit report over the last 14 months.
So explain what you mean by that.
So I'm looking at,
In like layman's term.
okay, I'll
Remember, I'm a
I'll slow
musician.
down.
I barely graduated. I mean, I couldn't even get a
So-
music master degree.
So you recruit. So you recruit. You have a conversation. You're break it down. You're saying how great you are. How this is a great fit.
I don't say, everyone says how great I am. I never have to say it. I don't have to say it anymore.
At the end of the day, you're great. They need to make a move, right? And it's at some level without the data. What is required? Trust. They have to trust you, and you hope that you have a great relationship and they do trust you. But that's still required. So what if you could, as a loan officer, and you can do this, pull up that company and say, you know what? Hey, show me in the last 14 months or 12 months or 6 months or 8 months,
Whatever the date.
whatever you want. Show me how many LOs are leaving that.
Yeah, see?
What is
Also,
what is-
and
That's how the loan officer can flip the table.
where are they going?
Yeah.
And who are the types of people that are leaving? And oh, by the way, so what? You as an organization have to be prepared to answer the question. They might not be disqualifying you. They just need to understand, why did this happen?
What's next?
Well, actually, it's if you, as a legit, honest recruiter, all it does is now solidify the relationship because
Yeah.
See, I mean, I would pull it out and show the person, this is our data from Model Match. You know what I mean? This is my report card. This is what it says. You know what I mean? So you don't have to go pay them money. I'll give it to you.
Wait a second.
No, I missed that.
But hey, one more thing. Because this is really important also, right? What I want to find out is, could a loan officer not, I mean, because I had one question me just recently, right? So could they say, how long does it take to ramp up at Fabi's company? Right? If the last 18 loan officers joined and they were at X, they went down to Y, it took them 4 months to get back up to X plus 10% by the time they hit 6-7 months.
So you can look at it by enter date, and you can see how long it took them to ramp. We actually show a graph.
Yeah.
The graph is here. It tapers when they're closing out their pipeline. They join the company. How long does it take to get back to view?
That's cool.
Yeah.
This is all data I would want as an executive at a mortgage company to see that and then show that in my recruiting efforts. But also, back to your other point, if I'm an executive at a mortgage company, I want to know where all my LOs are going.
Absolutely.
And understand what is it over here at ABC Mortgage Company that's driving them to go join there.
So back again,
Are people
what are you
leaving?
doing with the data? Even if
What
the
are you
executive
doing with
is
it?
there. So now
Yeah.
you know. You don't like what it says. What are you doing?
What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is if we're using the data to make our decisions, right? It's not going to guarantee success, but it's going to minimize my failures.
That's right.
That's a great point.
And you know, the key is, I think for a long time, the data was looked at from a recruiting perspective. And if you take the methodology behind recruiting and you apply that same outreach from a loan officer all the way to the executive, the data plays a role in every single key element. That's why the data is so powerful. From the loan officer all the way up to leadership, each role that data plays a significant driver in the direction that it's taking.
I mean, this episode has blown my mind.
Go way deeper into this.
I gotta stop.
You gotta stop.
You don't understand the questions in my head right now, guys. It's like
We can do a part two.
Yeah, let's do it.
Joe hates me when I say this, but I'm Southeast Asian, and what happens is my brain just starts like it's just all these numbers you know what I mean? And I'm seeing percentages, I'm seeing graphs, all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean? So I gotta stop now before I'm not gonna be asleep tonight, by the way. I'm gonna be up at 2 o'clock calling Thomas. Hey Thomas, what room number are you at?
I'll give you a key. I got you.
Oh, Thomas is gonna be like going through numbers tonight. I'm recruiting this guy right now. What do you think?
That's right.
Anyway, guys, listen. Eric Levin, Thomas Seelbinder from Model Match. If you don't know who they are, find out who they are. We got the website, modelmatch.com, I imagine. LinkedIn, I know Eric and Thomas are both on LinkedIn, right? Crazy episode. We could go on for another at least hour or two. Easily, guys. So, JP, please save me and get me out of here.
45.
Looks like Tom Duncan.
Sounds like, must be a duck.
Jersey girls are the best. What?
The bunny ears are back.